What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out Stephen Fry at a debate on political correctness. I don't know anything about Stephen Fry except we saw him in that one clip with the two Ronnies.
I was going to say, isn't he an actor? I feel like I see his name in the comments a lot, so I think he's a pretty iconic figure in the UK.
That's what made me want to check this out specifically. Stephen Fry, knowing that he is iconic in some way, and political correctness, which obviously...
It's an interesting topic. Sir Stephen John Fry is an English actor, broadcaster, comedian, director, narrator, and writer.
Man.
Wow, he does it all. First came to prominence as a member of the comic double act Fry and Laurie, alongside Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie.
Jeeves and Wooster, Alfresco, Blackadder, which I've heard recommended a lot in the comments. So it seems like he's done a lot and known for a lot.
Political correctness is the act of avoiding language and actions that could be offensive to others, especially those relating to sex, gender, and race. I feel like there's more to it than that. I feel like you could also add religion.
Yeah, I feel like this is a very narrow way of defining it, but yeah.
But basically the act of avoiding language and actions that could be offensive to others.
Yeah, like not wanting to offend people, basically.
That's going to be an interesting debate.
Yeah, I feel like in this day and age, it's like trying to dodge laser beams.
Yeah, it really is.
Trying to make a joke.
What doesn't offend people these days?
Right.
Now, in agreeing to participate in this debate and stand on this side of the argument, I'm fully aware that many people who choose incorrectly, in my view, to see this issue in terms of left and right, devalued and exploded terms as I think they are, will believe that I am betraying myself in such causes and values that I have espoused over the years. I've been given huge grief already simply because I'm standing here next to Professor Peterson, which is the very reason that I am standing here in the first place. I'm standing next to someone with whom I have, you know, differences, shall we say, in terms of politics and all kinds of other things, precisely because I think all this has got to stop.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. I had to stop, guys, because he makes an excellent point. This has to stop. The cancel culture and the division have to stop. There was a time, well, I'll say in the U.S., and I'm guessing in all Western nations, where we could agree to disagree. Right. We could actually
have a healthy debate, and people didn't leave hating each other or come in hating each other.
You could come in, sit down, have a debate with someone. You could be on complete opposite ends of some sort of political topic, but you could leave and go have a beer with each other. You know, that doesn't happen anymore. There's too much division in our society. And it's one thing that I've said many, many times on this channel when we've even touched slightly on political topics is that I am a nonpartisan. You know, I can see and agree with people on the left and on the right, and that's okay. We should all be able to have things that we agree and disagree with on each side.
And be able to speak on those things without being afraid of being canceled.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good for him.
I like this so far.
This rage, resentment, hostility, intolerance, above all this with us or against us, certainty. A Grand Canyon has opened up in our world. The fissure, the crack, grows wider every day. Neither on each side can hear a word that the other shrieks, and nor do they want to.
Yes!
While these armies and propagandists in the culture wars clash, down below in the enormous space between the two sides, the people of the world try to get on with their lives, alternately baffled, bored, and betrayed by the horrible noises and explosions that echo all around. I think it's time for this toxic, binary, zero-sum madness to stop.
Yes. I just want to say that I think this debate was 6 years ago. So
was it?
Yeah, so we haven't really seen any positive changes with this, it seems, at this point.
I mean, maybe slightly a little better, but not much. Really.
But here's the thing. The average person, whoever you are, whether you're on the left or the right, You have more in common with the people that you consider the opposite of you, the average citizen, than you do with these elitist politicians on both sides that you look up to.
Yeah.
I mean, that are sitting there, basically ruling over you. You have more in common with your average everyday citizen, even if you don't agree on every single issue.
Right.
And so that is the point. They want to divide us. When you are divided, it's impossible to unify.
You start to dehumanize the other.
Yes.
The other side of whatever topic you're interested in or passionate about. Not everyone is like this, but obviously we're seeing a huge trend in that direction where you look at, not you personally, but in general, people do start to dehumanize that differing opinion. Seek first to understand.
Yes.
Before we destroy ourselves.
Amen, brother.
I'd better nail my colours to the mast before I get any further in this. It's only polite to give you a sense of where I come from. All my adult life, I have been what you might call a lefty, a soft lefty, a liberal of the most hand-wringing milksop, milquetoast variety. Not a burning man, the barricade socialist, not even really a progressive worth the name. I've been on marches, but I've never quite dared wave placards or banners. Am I a loathed member of that band, an SJW, a social justice warrior? I don't think highly of social injustice, I have to say, but I character myself mostly as a social justice warrior. My intellectual heroes growing up were Bertrand Russell and G.E. Moore, liberal thinkers, people like that, writers like E.M. Forster. I believed, and I think I still do believe, in the sanctity of human relations, of the primacy of the heart and friendship and love and common interest. These are more personal, interior beliefs than they are political exterior convictions, more a humanistic version of a religious impulse, I suppose. I trust in humanity. I believe in humanity. I think I do, despite all that has happened in the 40 years of my adulthood. I am soft, and I can easily be swept away by harder hearts and harder intellects. I'm sometimes surprised to be described as an activist, but over time I have energetically involved myself with what you might call causes. I grew up knowing that I was gay. Well, in fact, from the very first I knew I was gay. I remember when I was born looking up and saying, that's the last time I'm going up one of those. I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish, so I have a natural, obvious horror of racism. I want racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, bullying, bigotry, intolerance of all humankinds to end. That's surely a given amongst all of us. The question is how such a golden aim is to be achieved. My ultimate objection to political correctness is not that it combines so much of what I have spent a lifetime loathing and opposing, preachiness, with great respect, piety, self-righteousness, heresy hunting, denunciation, shaming, assertion without evidence, accusation, inquisition, censoring. That's not why I'm incurring the wrath of my fellow liberals by standing on this side of the House. My real objection is that I don't think political correctness works. I want to get to the Golden Hill, but I don't think that's the way to get there.
I don't either. I mean, when you basically avoid stepping on people's toes, you never bring the conversation into fruition.
Right, you can't talk about it. It's
right.
forbidden.
It's forbidden. Oh my goodness. No, that is the exact opposite of what you want. You want to be able to have respectful dialogue, and I mean, pushing back on anyone to the point that you cancel them or to the point you don't even talk about something never gets anyone anywhere,
I believe one of the greatest human failings is to prefer to be right than to be effective.
Yes. I agree with that.
Political correctness is always obsessed with how right it is without thinking of how effective it might be. I wouldn't class myself as a classical libertarian, but I do relish transgression, and I deeply and instinctively distrust conformity and orthodoxy. Progress is not achieved by preachers and guardians of morality, but, to paraphrase Yevgeny Zemyatin, by madmen, hermits, heretics, dreamers, rebels, and skeptics. I may be wrong. I hope to learn this evening. I really do think I may be wrong, but I'm prepared to entertain the possibility that political correctness will bring us more tolerance and a better world. But I'm not sure, and I would like this quotation from my hero Bertrand Russell to hover over the evening. One of the painful things about our time is that those who feel certainty are stupid, and those with any imagination and understanding are filled with doubt and indecision. Let doubt prevail.
Wow. So he's literally sitting on the opposite side of where he would normally
what would
sit.
be expected of him.
Right.
Yeah. In agreement with Jordan Peterson on this issue when I don't know much about either of them, honestly, but clearly they have differing beliefs on most things.
There is very little that I love to see more than someone crossing a line to be in a position they normally wouldn't be expected to be in.
Right. That's very brave, because especially nowadays, because you get such hatred for it.
Yeah, and it's both sides.
Of power like that.
Right, it's both sides. It doesn't matter if it's the left or the right, but when a figure on that side goes against the grain of what's expected from them, they are hated from their side to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes it's stronger than others, but nonetheless, it's like everybody gets into their little partisan boxes and you just can't leave.
I don't believe that the advances in my culture that have allowed me to marry, as I have now been for 3 years, to someone of my gender, I don't believe they are a result of political correctness. And maybe political correctness is actually just some sort of live trout, that the harder we squeeze it, the further it goes away. And you will be saying, I'm not talking about political correctness, you're talking about social justice, with which I agree, with whether you want to call it identity politics or the history of your people, the history of my people. My people were slaves as well. Both the British were slaves of Romans and the Jews were slaves of the Egyptians. All human beings have been slaves at some point, and we all, in that sense, share that knowledge of how important it is to speak up. But Russell Means, who was a friend of mine towards the end, who founded the American Indian movement, he said, oh, for God's sake, call me an Indian or a Lakota Sioux or Russell. I don't care what you call me. It's how we're treated that matters. And so I'm really addressing a more popular idea. Also, actually, in Barrow, Alaska, an Inupiat said, call me an Eskimo. It's obviously easier for you because you keep mispronouncing Inupiat. My point is not that I've turned to the right or anything like that, or that I'm nice and fluffy and want everybody to be decent. I'm saying, f*** political correctness. Resist. Fight. If you have a point of view, fight it in the proper manner, using democracy as it should be, not channels of education, not language. You know, it's so silly. There's a chess rule, you know. In chess, the best move to play in chess is not the best chess move. It's the move your opponent least wants you to play. At the moment, you're being recruiting sergeants for the right. By annoying and upsetting, and instead of fighting, either fighting or persuading. But political correctness is a middle course that simply doesn't work.
Well, first of all,
of course, I recognize the bestiality of Weinstein and the monstrosity of his behavior, and it was shocking to me. I actually worked for him. Script doctoring, as it's called. I never had the bathroom towel. But for pretty obvious reasons. But it's, grotesque, and I can't imagine how vile it must be for such a powerful man. And he was. I used to play a game at the Cannes Film Festival where, in his years of power, we're walking from one hotel at the end there, all the way up to the Palais de Festival. You would get 10 points every time you heard the word Harvey. And you'd usually, a 10-minute walk, you'd have 300 points. Because it was, Harvey's got the script, Harvey's got it. I've got a meeting with Harvey at the Majestic in the afternoon. He was immensely powerful. And I think that's obvious that someone in that position abusing and threatening and hindering the livelihood of women is grotesque in the extreme. But I have to tell you, there is genuine feeling amongst many people I know that we can't speak our minds. We can't actually speak to the true nuance, the true depth of sexual, romantic feeling between men and women. It's not a subject I'm absolutely expert on, but it counts between men and men as well, though I know when it's men and men, you might say, well, that's different because women have had a different experience in history, and I don't want to enter that particular field, but I would say that there is real fear in my business, which is where this all started, show business, acting, and so on. People are rather afraid to speak about a piece of, publicity that's come out or a statement that's been made. You just go, yep, absolutely, and wait for the people to leave the room before you can speak honestly with your friends. And I've never experienced that in my entire 60 years on this.
That's sad, man. That's sad that you have to wait so you can just speak honestly with your friends instead of being able to speak with people, everyone.
Right.
Like, why, where did we go wrong? Where did this happen where people are just afraid to just speak their minds? It doesn't matter what your opinion is. Speak it. Like what is wrong with that? Yeah. Like, when did that happen? Like, I know that when I was a kid, it wasn't like this.
I feel like social media has made it worse too, because it's so much easier for, like, if you share your opinion on something and a lot of people might disagree with you, it's so much easier for them to attack you because of social media. Whereas, in decades ago, before the prevalence of social media and the internet, you weren't really affected by such outside voices and thoughts. It was your immediate circle, your immediate community that was more in tune with what you're saying, It's
just really sad that we have become so partisan that we can't just, take a step back and be like, question our own beliefs, our own values, and actually be willing to kind of look to the other side to see what do we actually agree with that side on. Mm-hmm. Why is that such a hard thing for our society today to do?
Because we're more divided than ever for a reason. Like, it's all on by design.
I was interested in what I've always been interested in, the suppression of language and thought, the closing down, the rationalist idea that seems beguiling, that if you limit people's language, it may somehow teach them a different way of thinking. Something that would have delighted the inventors of George Orwell's Newspeak, for example. And it seems to me it's just implausible. It doesn't work. And that's what I mean by empirical. It doesn't stand an empirical test. It isn't experientially validated, as we see from the political landscape now, and I worry that we may in the future. So I'm sort of disappointed that the subject has just revolved around academia, which was predictable, because that's the sort of crucible in which these elements are mixed. But even more disappointed that really I haven't heard from Michelle or from Professor Dyson as to what they think political correctness is, because what they've talked about is basically saying progress, in our view, is progress. Well, I agree. That's, so it is too. And good on progress. But how is it that you're saying that what we call political correctness, you call progress? That's what you're supposed to be arguing. I want to know what you mean by
the internet.
Names.
No, but I mean,
I'm scared. If I missed it.
But
that's
again,
the point.
You're scared.
It is a culture of
right.
fear.
I understand there's that element of fear. What I'm saying is that it's a feeling. It's a feeling that is this sort of intangible result of primarily.
We've all seen the sort of show trial thing where the person then apologizes. I have so much to learn about sexual politics. I am really sorry. Signed a lawyer, crossed out the name of the person. You think the real mistake of our left is...
Hold on, guys. I'm sorry to pause this right now. I was just thinking about something. I hate when I see that.
What?
Okay, so not exactly what they were just talking about, but you've seen this before where let's take an actor or something, and they'll make a statement online about something, and then because all of a sudden their supposed side, whether they on the left or the right, they went against.
They bring out the pitchfork.
Yeah, they went against. They said something that was against their narrative, their side's narrative, and so all of a sudden the pitchforks come out, and their side starts. How dare you say that? How dare you do that? And
they apologize.
And instead of owning it and being like, yeah. That's me, yo. Deal with it. Yeah. Instead, they go like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry," and it's like, what's the worst thing? The worst thing about that is,
it's not genuine.
Their apology isn't even genuine because obviously you believe what you believe. Own what you said.
Right.
Don't allow your side to shut you down. Right? That is
or the opposite side.
Is that a perfect example of political correctness in some way?
I think it is, because it just shows the pressure of our cancel culture, basically.
Don't say this. Oh, how dare you? Don't say it.
And who cares if you actually think that way? We just want the fake apology, and then all
right,
good.
And then you're good. Okay, you made your fake apology, so you're good.
Let's don't talk about the issue.
You're good now. Yeah.
The more we tell the world how people should be treated, how language should be treated, what words are acceptable, what attitudes are acceptable, what HR meeting is going to tell you in a long bullet-pointed list about how you look at people. All of this is meat and drink to bad people, to malefactors, to bad actors. I'm not counting myself as one of those bad actors in that sense. I mean bad actors in the other sense.
Right, So there are, like I said, there are a lot of ways in which I agree with you, although I would like to hear, to turn it back on you, I would like to hear you say, what are the words that have fallen into disrepute that you think we should be resurrecting, right? To me, this is this area of hotly contested social change right now, where a lot of people feel
it's about words that have gone into disuse. It's very often phrases, jargonistic slogans, heteronormative, cisgendered, those kind of things. They're just an insult. Imagine you're a young student arriving at university and someone's bombarding you with this preposterous hermeneutical nonsense from misread textbooks, misread Foucault, if I may say, and misread Derrida. And so on, because I was at Cambridge, England, doing English literature. We had our French phase, and there's value in that. It's an interesting game, and it is. It's a place to. I think I'd just really say that the ghost hovering over for me it's a letter Oscar Wilde wrote, and he said to Bosie, his love, he said, the fact that you didn't get a degree is nothing, but you never acquired what is sometimes called the Oxford manner, and I'll say for that, the university manner. Oscar said, I take that to mean the ability to play gracefully with ideas. I think that's disappearing from our culture. And I think it's a terrible.
I just want to pause that for a second. Play gracefully with ideas.
Basically be able to have civil debate without...
I like that.
Yeah.
I like the way he said that. I've never heard it said like that before. Play gracefully with ideas. I think he said he was quoting Oscar Wilde. But wow. Yeah. That is a great way to say basically what I'm trying to say. Why can't we actually acknowledge and be open to people speaking their ideas and respecting them even if we disagree with them? I don't want someone being mean to someone else. No, of course not. Or, bullying anyone. No, absolutely not. That's acceptable. But I think our focus is on the wrong thing nowadays. I think as parents especially, I think we should be more teaching our children to be strong. Yes. To prepare for the outside world instead of trying to make the outside world soft for them. Yes. Does that make sense? Yes. I think that's where we're going wrong as a society, and why when kids get to college or university campuses nowadays, they can't debate because they're so fragile that they can't handle a differing opinion or their feelings being hurt or, Well,
I've been fascinated by this conversation. There's been an enormous clash of cultures in in the conversation we've had, classic, if I can call it, huckstering snake oil pulpit talk, which is, it's a discourse. It's a rhetorical style that I find endlessly refreshing and vivifying. But I'm not sure that we actually focused on the point in question. And my objection has always been towards orthodoxies. I'm a heterodox and a contrarian, and I can't help myself. And I think there's been an underestimation of the fact that language does affect people. It does make the young in particular, as they're starting out on their educational or their work careers, it makes them very anxious, it makes them very angry, very upset, very alienated, to feel that they don't know anymore how to operate in the world, how to engage in relationships, how to think honestly. So they accrete more and more to their own mini groups. And I think that's dangerous and unhappy for society. I think it's reflected in a paucity of cinema and literature and art and the culture generally, is that there's a fear that's pervading it. And while people can talk to academia and say, you should come and see our lessons, our lectures are open and free and ideas are exchanged. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure it's true, but I don't think we should underestimate how much this feeling is prevalent in the culture of this strange paradox that the liberals are illiberal in their demand for liberality. They are exclusive in their demand for inclusivity. They are homogeneous in their demand for heterogeneity. They are somehow undiverse in their call for diversity. You can be diverse, but not diverse in your opinions and in your language and in your behavior. And that's a terrible pity. So I had just taken very literally the popular idea of political correctness as being a kind of control of language and a shutting down of certain phrases or an introduction of others, and the kind of day-to-day, as I say, human resource departments of corporations and that sort of thing. And so I was slightly disappointed that it just became a debate about race and about gender and so on. And
we didn't see any of that.
That was, I guess, natural. And I
would like to see the whole thing.
Yeah, I would too.
I'm still a lefty, but a soft one. I just don't have...
I'm not too soft.
Flabby, squashy.
Squishy.
Squashy.
And I realize that that's not a political point of view. It is a personal one.
Right.
And the gap between the personal and the political, which is a space you obviously are very interested in as a psychologist, is one that is rarely explored. People are either so personal that it has no application in the outside world and the organization of human affairs, or they're so political and so much to do with structure and distinction between hierarchies and networks and so on, that they forget the individual. And that's the space in which the impassioned liberal lives, and it's not easy to do it because you often do sound rather wet, and I'm aware that I did. But I enjoyed it. I just wanted to leave with the point that I do want, like everybody, it's a no-brainer. We want the world to be fairer, juster, sweeter, kinder. But it's how you get there, and I felt that wasn't really addressed.
Okay.
Wow. This was a pretty incredible introduction to Stephen Fry.
It was, and I think just from what little gathered, I don't know a lot about him, but really anything aside from this.
Yeah.
But from what I gathered, this was a very brave act for him to do.
Seemed like it.
It went against everything most people thought about him or what he thought. And so...
Or maybe not. Maybe he is known to... He's a comedian, so a lot of times comedians push the boundaries of even what their own quote unquote side.
That's why he said he's doing it.
Would do.
Because of all the parameters around what people think he should do or what he should be. And...
I love that. I love it. I said it earlier. I love it when people are willing to cross that line and actually, come from a different perspective. But yeah, guys, I think we're going to stop rambling now and let you go. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this debate from Stephen Fry. And also, what do you think about political correctness? What do you also think about, in general, how far the division in our society has gotten? You know, and do you also believe that we need to take a step back as a society and somehow be able to come together for the good of our children and our grandchildren and our society and their future society in general? Anyways, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey to discover anything and everything about the UK and Ireland. Until next time, guys, peace.
Bye.